Welcome to Vital News, your go-to source for the latest breaking news, fascinating facts, and insightful analysis on the topics that matter most.
The Biden administration has formally concluded that Russia committed crimes against humanity during its nearly year-long invasion of Ukraine. Kamala Harris has said, "In the case of Russia's actions in Ukraine, we have examined the evidence. We know the legal standards, and there is no doubt these are crimes against humanity," the US vice president and former prosecutor said in prepared remarks delivered in a speech at the Munich Security Conference on Saturday. "And I say to all those who have perpetrated these crimes, and to their superiors implicit in those crimes, you will be held to account." The US Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, who is also attending the conference, said members of Russia's forces had committed execution-style killings of Ukrainian men, women, and children, torture of civilians in detention through beatings, electrocution, and mock executions, rape, and, alongside other Russian officials, have deported hundreds of thousands of Ukrainian civilians to Russia, including children who have been forcibly separated from their families. The official determination, which came at the end of a legal and factual analysis led by the US State Department, carries no immediate consequences for the war. Washington hopes the determination could help further isolate the Russian President, Vladimir Putin, and galvanize legal efforts to hold members of his government accountable through international courts and sanctions. Harris's speech came as senior Western leaders met in Munich to assess Europe's worst conflict since the Second World War. She said Russia was a weakened country after Joe Biden led a coalition to punish Putin for the invasion. But Russia is intensifying assaults in Ukraine's east. Ukraine is planning a spring counteroffensive, for which it is seeking more heavier and longer-range weapons from its Western allies. The war has killed tens of thousands, uprooted millions from their homes, pummeled the global economy, and made Putin a pariah in the West. Washington had already concluded that Russian forces were guilty of war crimes, as had an unmandated investigation. But the Biden administration conclusion that Russia's actions amount to crimes against humanity implies a legal finding that acts from murder to rape are widespread, systematic, and intentionally directed against civilians. In international law, it is seen as a more serious offense. The unbacked Commission of Inquiry on Ukraine has not yet concluded that the war crimes it says it has identified amount to crimes against humanity. In her remarks, Harris cited as barbaric and inhumane the scores of victims found in Bucha shortly after Russia's invasion last February, the 9 March bombing of a Mariupol maternity hospital that killed 3 people, including a child, and the sexual assault of a 4-year-old by a Russian soldier that was identified by the UN report. Organizations supported by the US Agency for International Development USAID have documented more than 30,000 war crimes incidents since the invasion. According to the US government, Ukrainian officials said they were investigating the shelling of the city of Bakhmut this week as a possible war crime. Russia, which says it is conducting a special military operation in Ukraine to eliminate threats to its security and to protect Russian speakers, has denied intentionally targeting civilians or committing war crimes. Harris said, "Let us all agree, on behalf of all the victims, known and unknown, justice must be served." The Biden administration has sought to bring alleged war criminals to justice, including training Ukrainian investigators, imposing sanctions, blocking visas, and hiking penalties under US war crimes laws. Washington has spent $40.33 on the efforts so far and says it is working with Congress to secure an additional $38. But the Biden administration's ability to enforce any such efforts beyond its borders, and certainly within Russia, is limited and collecting evidence in Ukraine has proven difficult. International legal bodies are also constrained. At the International Criminal Court, for instance, jurisdiction extends only to member states and states that have agreed to its jurisdiction, such as Ukraine but not Russia. Kyiv has been pushing for a new international war crimes organization to focus on the Russian invasion, which Moscow has opposed